Can you believe that this guy
Look what we rolling on, cuz.
eventually made music like this? Tyler, the Creator, came up as many rappers did around this time, on the newly found blog era in the late 2000s. The blog era, and the internet in general, was a significant precursor to how easy music is to listen to these days. And thanks to mixtape sharing websites like DatPiff, rappers like Tyler were allowed to self-release full bodies of work for free on a platform where millions of users downloaded full albums without paying a penny. This era unlocked the rapid growth of people like Meek Mill, Mac Miller, Wiz Khalifa, and of course, Tyler. But Tyler wasn't your ordinary rapper. Being a complete outcast with his behavior and musical statements, the controversial Californian went through a musical metamorphosis throughout the last 15 years. From his first mixtape all the way to his Grammy Award winning albums. And I'm about to rank them all in a tier list from meh, good, amazing, and classic in order of releases. And I'm doing this because Tyler's music stuck with me ever since someone posted Yonkers on my Facebook wall, absolutely terrifying family members on my friends list. None of us were around the day this dropped, be honest, but it's an interesting tape to look back at. Some key things to note are the early appearances from Odd Future members like Earl, Damo, and Haji. And musically, we can see Tyler's influences being worn on his sleeve, whether it's MF Doom, NERD, or Eminem. It's incredible that a 17-year-old Tyler was coming up with songs like French and Ass Milk, but I'm just impressed with the production being so textured with such little resources. I mean, this was recorded in Sid's and Taco's basement. It's a nostalgic revisit, and it holds up surprisingly well after 14 years. My favorite tracks are Bastard, French, and Ass Milk, but for now I'll place it in the good tier. Goblin came out at a time where both Tyler's popularity and controversy skyrocketed. It's funny to look back at this now, as people were genuinely scared of him due to his visuals and antics, but musically, Goblin capitalized on the darker tones from Bastard, and this came with some of his most demented tracks like Troncat and the stalker anthem She. This album has some of Tyler's best and worst songs on it, and it really is a staple in his career, as without Goblin, a lot of people would never have found out about him. My favorite tracks are Yonkers, She, and the Posse Cut Window, but I'll place it in the meh tier due to the many tracks that fall flat in the second half of the album. In my adolescence, Wolf was really important to me. The album was more mature in contrast to Goblin, which isn't saying much, but the subject matter explored a more relatable depth with mentions of personal conflict, love, and success. On the other hand, the production also explores a new depth, with Tyler evolving his hip-hop and R&B instrumentals with new layers and additions greatly assisted by his sample choices. The best example of his massive improvements is the song I Hate You, and the progression and the emotion of this song still stands out in Tyler's discography. Also, this is the first Tyler album where the flow of the album is very seamless. My favorite tracks are Jamba, I Hate You, Rusty, and Lone. I gotta put it up in amazing tier. Let's be real for a second. This album is too much of a mess to be anywhere near the top of the tier list. And this is coming from someone that enjoys most of the songs on it. It's just that as a whole listening experience, it's way too jarring and disjointed. I do understand how crucial this album was for Tyler to transition his artistry into his post-Flower Boy era, but it's definitely the one I go back to the least by far. You can see the diamonds and the gems in songs like Smuckers and F***ing Young being precursors to the stuff he did later on in his career, and I see the value of that. And that just goes to show, even the most messy Tyler album is still pretty good. My favorite tracks are Smuckers, Keep the O's, and Okaka, California. I'm putting it in the good tier. We're getting serious now. This album blew me away once it released, as it felt like Tyler was finally taking music seriously. We were introduced to a new, confident, mature Tyler with both musical depth and pop appeal. I mean, See You Again is gonna be on one of those essential throwbacks playlists in 20 years. And the flow of this album is still amazing to this day, especially the build up to the climax of the album, which I feel is Garden Shed. It's definitely his most accessible album for new listeners, and was easily his best album at the time of its release. Can you believe it's been like 6 years already? My favorite tracks are Forward, Boredom, 911 Mr. Lonely, and Glitter. At this point for Tyler's discography, it's in the classic tier. I gotta address the elephant in the room. Some of you might know, I made a YouTube short months ago talking about a Tyler tier list. And I have to admit, Igor was at the top. After months of reevaluating, I must announce that Igor is no longer quote unquote the best. I'm sorry, 300,000 people, I'm sorry. It's because it shares this placement now, as it still remains in a classic tier, and I'll put it with Flower Boy. It's rare for an artist to have two different albums that scratch two different itches perfectly. And Igor is everything I wanted out of Tyler in a creative sense. An engaging story, envelope pushing musical aspects, and just some catchy ass songs. And he did that, completely transforming himself into a new character, risking everything with this album, which paid off incredibly, with the album earning him a Grammy and some chart success. It was such a smooth album at that too. Favorite songs are Earthquake, A Boy Is a Gun, and Puppet. And as I said, it's in the classic tier. Upon release, I thought this was as good as it gets with Tyler, the Creator. A full-on rap album by him that isn't cringe at any points, I'm all in. But the album has significantly fallen out of rotation since its release for me. And I only go back to the more melodic cuts like What's Your Name and Sweet. I think it's due to the relatability of his music evaporating almost fully on this album, which makes sense. Tyler is a music, fashion, and business colossus. How the hell am I supposed to relate to him? Which is why I can still take this album and appreciate its writing and production, with the different collaborations being very interesting. Just highlighting the writing, my favorite tracks are Sir Baudelaire, Massa, and Wilshire. It's firmly in the amazing tier. And that's the tier list. Let me know what I should do next and make sure to subscribe. What's the Buzz is out.